हरि जी की जय, राधा रास पे हरि जी की जय, राधा गोविंद जी की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत त्रिविक्रम गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वल्लभ तीर्थ गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वैभव पुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील गौ गोविंद गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति रक्षा श्रीदा गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति माधव दैत माधव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति प्रमोद पुरी गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम परमहंस श्री गोकिशोरदास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम सच्चिदानंद श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टम वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरी वेदांताचार्य श्रील बलदेव विद्याभूषण प्रभु की जय। श्रील विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। श्रील नारायण श्रीनिवास श्यामानंद प्रभु चाय की जय। श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय। श्री रूप सनातन बत रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल बत दास रघुनाथ सद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय। नामचर श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम सखो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री अंतद्वीप मालभूषि सीमंतद्वीप द्रुमद्वीप मध्यद्वीप रुद्रद्वीप जानुद्वीप मौद्रद्वीप रुद्राद्वीप पापक श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोवर्धन द्वादश वनात्मक श्री ब्रज मंडल की जय। श्री श्याम कुंड राधा कुंज जमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा जी की जय। नरसिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रवेश श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। चार संप्रदाय की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समकर भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौ प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। आज श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा by Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, page 359 in the book, if you have it. Otherwise, Didi, could you please post it? Or the link. Shri Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama Shri Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama Charana Kamala Bhajama Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama Charana Kamala Bhajama Guru Kripa Vina Nahi koi sadamba Guru Kripa Vina Nahi koi sadamba Bhajamana bhaja anukshan Bhajamana bhaja anukshan Shri Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama चरण कमल भजमा श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा मिलता नहीं ऐसा दुर्लभ जानमा मिलता नहीं ऐसा दुर्लभ जानमा ब्रह्मता हूँ चौरा हो भुआ ब्रह्मता हूँ चौरा भुआ किसी को मिलते हैं आहो भाग्यों से किसी को मिलते हैं आहो भाग्यों से हरि भक्त के दर्शन हरि भक्त के दर्शन श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा गुरु चरण कमल भजमा चरण कमल भजमा गुरु चरण कमल भजमा चरण कमल भजमा कृष्ण कृपा की आनंद मूर्ति कृष्ण कृपा की आनंद मूर्ति दीन जन करुणा निधान दीन जन करुणा निधान ओ भक्ति भाव प्रेम कीन प्रकाशता भक्ति भाव प्रेम कीन प्रकाशता श्री गुरु पतित पावन श्री गुरु पतित पावन श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा श्रुति स्मृति पुराणमाहि श्रुति स्मृति पुराणमाहि कीनाश्वाष्ट प्रमाण कीनास्पष्ट प्रमाण तन मन जीवन गुरुपादयार्पण तन मन जीवन गुरुपादयार्पण श्री हरि नाम रता श्री हरि नाम रता श्री गुरु चरण कमल भजमा Shri Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama. Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama. Charana Kamala Bhajama. Guru Charana Kamala Bhajama. Charana Kamala Bhajama. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Parampara, Guru Parampara, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Shri Guru Parampara ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Bo.
Thank you so much, Radhika Didi, as always. Yes, your kirtan's always beautiful, as always. Okay, Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Nityanamine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Shri Keshava Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vamana iti namine. Vanchakalpatarubhisya Kripa Sindhu Bhayavicha Patranam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. First of all, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my Guru Padma Niti Lila Pravishna Om Vishnupada Stotra Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. At the same time, I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Niti Lila Pravishna Om Vishnupada Stotra Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And Niti Lila Pravishna Om Vishnupada Stotra Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. The entire Rupanuga Guru Varga. All the sannyas vrindas, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, past, present and future. I'd like to offer my humble obeisances. So we are in week 11. We've just recovered from the 55-hour global glorification and we're back again to continue our 64 weeks of remembering Srila Gurudev. Hopefully it will continue longer. We're seeing now that many different countries from around the world are also starting their own versions of it, which is just amazing and beautiful to see. So we're feeling very honored that this is really kind of expanded and exploded everywhere across the globe. So we're feeling very honored for that. So we're on week 20 of 64, and normally Yashodananda Prabhu does some calculation of where we are in the the time of the day. I have no clue. So you can say, Yashodananda Prabhu, you can tell us what time of the day we're in at the moment, technically, in a moment. But I would just like to say thank you for everyone that's joining, sharing. Please do come every week, every Sunday. And also, please suggest people to come and offer their Pushpanjalis to Srila Gurudev, and anyone that you may think would like to speak, or if you would like to speak, please do contact myself or Yashodananda Prabhu to bring you onto this program. So now I shall hand over to Yashodananda Prabhu. My koti koti dandavat pranams to everybody. Haribol.
Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripasinduevacha Patitanam pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Om Gyan Tiramandasya Gyanjana Salakaya Chakshvamilitamina Tashmai Shigure namaha. Trinada Pisunichana Tarora Pisahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kitsni Sada Hare Tate Nukampam Susamikshamno Punjanaivat Makritam Vipakam Hitvak Vapupi Vidadam Namaste Jivete Yomukti Pada Sayadaya Bak Anya Blasta Sunyam Gyang Kamriana Vritam Anukalenya Krishnu Shiranam Bhakti Uttama Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev, Jai Nityananda. Haribol. Beautiful to see everybody. I'd have to say, I think Yashodhara and I both have withdrawal symptoms because it's been like that was such an intoxicating 59 hours. We both kind of didn't know what to do with ourselves afterwards. So thank God you've all come to rescue us from our own degenerate delinquency, well, mine anyhow, and back into more beautiful Qatar. So exciting. Yes, indeed. The time clock, there are only probably one or two geeks in the audience. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a geek here. The time, this is the 20th session, the 20th Harikata out of 64, which means by the time we get to this session, end of this session, it's 7:30 in the morning. But just to give you an extra little bit of geeky input, I've done it by the day of Brahma as well, and it would be the equivalent of the 4th Manu and the 26th Chatra Yuga. So if you've got any idea what I'm talking about, I'm impressed anyhow. It's a lot of fun to know where we are in the day. We've got an amazing lineup today. I calculated, I only want you guys to feel senior, not old, by the way. My presentation here is not to make you feel old, but to make you feel senior. We have a collective, we have 3 speakers today because one of our speakers is going to have a double slot because even a double slot wouldn't do him justice. I think he actually needs his own radio show, which we may try and arrange. So we got 3 speakers rather than 4. Between the 3 of them, they have 130 years of devotional experience, which means we're going to get some serious nectar today. We have Srimati and Anandini, Didi, who will be coming on first from Zurich. And then we'll have Sriman, Mahabudhi Prabhu from the United States. And then we'll be finishing off with Sriman Narasingha Prabhu. Actually, I've been communicating with him, but I'm not quite sure which part of the world he lives in. So I'm sure he'll reveal that to us. So we'll start with Anandini and a short introduction, if I may. She first met the devotees in 1987. And she met Gurudev. Actually, she described that she actually met Gurudev in Heart and Seva the very same year. So I'm sure she'll explain what that means. It sounds very beautiful and quite intriguing. But I don't want to suppose I know what that means. I'm looking forward to understanding that. And she met Srila Gurudev physically in Vapu form, if you like, in 2006 and took Harinam and Diksha the very same year. She's done a lot of interesting seva. She produced helped to produce the Navadvip, the Braj Mandal and the Navadvip Parikram books sounds like from beginning to end, actually. Illustrations, layout, donations, the whole lot. She has also done lots of paintings and drawings for the Krishna film, and very intriguing. I'd love to see this. For 15 years, worked on the Bhagavad Gita for children, which I would love to read, actually, being a bit of a big kid. So that would be quite exciting. So I don't want to steal any more of your time. Didi, thank you so much for joining us from Zurich. I'll hand over to you, and have a wonderful, graced Pushpanjali. Haribol.
All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Agnana Timirandasya Jananjaya Shalakshaya Chakshurum Miritam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayani Tinamine. So I offer all my obeisances to all the devotees in the world. I'm a very bad speaker. I tried to get out of this many times, but Manjulali, she requested me over and over to please speak up here. She said, nobody in Switzerland or in the German part of the world wanted to speak. But I'm really not a good speaker, and I'm also not used to speak. But when she requested me over and over again, I was so amazed to hear her, how she said that she never ever met Gurudev, and I actually know that, and that it would be very, very pleasing for her to, and other devotees, to hear more about Srila Gurudev. And actually that reminded me so much of my story. And I thought, yeah, I really have to offer my Pushpanjalis, even though I am feeling very unqualified to speak in front of you all. So many devotees have been spoken up and have been telling so many beautiful Harikatha. And I'm feeling very humbled in front of that, because I think I have no qualifications at all. I was always working all this time, all my life. I actually raised my child alone. And beside of this, I tried to engage in Seva for Srila Gurudev. But let me tell you how I first met Srila Gurudev or heard about him. That was actually in 1987 or 86. I met a friend, and he went to India. And when he came back, before he came back, actually, I had a dream. And I saw in that dream, I saw 3 persons, and they were carrying very funny figures on their head. And these figures were shaking like this and like this. And they were looking very heavy. And this dream was very, very deep, but I didn't know what it means. And so when he came back, actually, my friend came back from India, he brought with him Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. And then I recognized them, and I knew they were the figures from my dream. And he actually told me then that he met this amazing person, amazing personality, and actually his Gurudev, and he gave him these takutis. And I didn't have a clue about anything. I wasn't even ever in the temple. I heard the Krishna devotees from the ISKCON temple one time singing on a festival, and I remembered that later, but until that time I didn't have any idea about Krishna or Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, or anything in my life. So then we started worshipping Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and also Gurudev. I had a picture, he gave me a picture from him, and so we started worshipping him. And I was really also amazed and addicted to hear about him. So then when he went the second time to India, he came back and he had this tape recorder. And he said, Srila Gurudev Narayan Maharaj said we should make a book for him. And so he put on the tape, and I was listening to the voice of Srila Gurudev, and I was so amazed. It was only about 3 sentences maximum, and I knew that this person is not from this world. And sorry, I know this is my Gurudev speaking, and so it was clear for me that, yeah, of course we do Srila Gurudev's books. And my friend was writing it all down, and I heard the voice from Gurudev again. And then we established these books here. First, this one, Vrajamandala Parikrama, and then Navadvip, Sri Navadvip Parikrama. And I saw Gurudev first here on these pictures, and I really wanted to see him. And yeah, so my friend Jagannath, he engaged me so much in service. I was drawing these pictures in these books, Sri Vrajamandala Parikrama. And also I sticked everything down, because at that time there were no computers. So sometimes I had to even make letter by letter, like for this one, I had to wrap letter and letter down. And yeah, we just did the layout and everything together. And then he went again, and then afterwards I was making the layouts for the printing and everything. And I always paid for his traveling so that he can go and see Gurudev, because he told me that at that time, he said, only brahmachari, you cannot go and see Gurudev. Only brahmacharis can see him, and you're a Madhaji and you cannot see him. And I was very sad by that, but on the other hand, I was also so happy with my Seva that I just took Gurudev in my heart, and it was just clear, okay, we do service for Gurudev. And every time when he was going to Vrindavan again, he came back and he told me some other things. Okay, then he said, now we do a film for Krishna, and we just make a film for Krishna. And for me, it was always, yes, this is all for Gurudev and Krishna. And so I was drawing day and night, and we did this. We had these sheets. There were still no computers at that time. We had these sheets for the film script and everything. So I was drawing the whole Leela for Krishna in pencil, and then I made some also like all the scenes and all the characters and everything. And he said he have a deal with Disney in America, and he knows somebody there, and so that this film will surely be established. And so I was just drawing, and he was going to America. But for me, it was always also for Gurudev. Whatever I did it for Gurudev. And eventually this film, I can maybe show something here. I don't know how to, Anuradha? Okay, so here are some of the pictures I can show you so you have an idea. Like this would have been the ad, advertising, and then I just did everything in pencil, so to get an idea of how the book could be and how the book could be starting. And here, this would be Yeah. Nanda Maharaj's place. And here Mathura, and just like that. So I did all the scenes and then also the characters and everything, like the bad characters, Trinivarta, and their homes. And so I was actually basically day and night, I was, how to get back, sorry. I was engaged in drawing, and I was all alone. And because my friend, he said, I should never go to Vrindavan, and I'm not qualified to ever go there, and not qualified to go to India, and I shouldn't go to the temple, ISKCON temple. So I was always with Gurudev. I was feeling very close with Gurudev, and I was just alone. I was working in the daytime, and in the evening I was doing these drawings and these paintings. And then after this film project, somehow it didn't work out. And even after going 2 times there, it was something, so it didn't work out. And then sometimes I was getting very, very sick. Then also we started another book. We started a book about all of Krishna's incarnations. So I was drawing all of Krishna's incarnations. I can also show you this maybe here. So, so some of these pictures have been put into the songbook, Vaishnava songbook, by our dear devotee Madhuka Prabhu. So this one here is in the songbook. So after I was drawing all these pictures, and my friend, he was always going to India, and he came home and he said, oh, we do this for Gurudev. Now we make, okay, you can make this incarnation picture for Gurudev, and Gurudev wants to see more. And I was working all the time, and this would be the book cover. And this is actually the first page I made before I started. So for Srila Gurudev, and I made all these drawings for Gurudev, and he told me also that they are for Gurudev. So this is what I did. And yeah, after some time I got very, very sick, and I couldn't do anything anymore, only lay in my room, and couldn't move my body anymore. And then, before that, I learned to know Krishna Chandra on the street, because I was always going to sweep the street for flowers for the Thakurjis. And then he always asked me, who do you bring these flowers to? Where are you going with these flowers? And then I said, I bring them to our Thakurjis. And then he said, but why don't you bring them to the ISKCON temple? And then I said, no, we have our own Gurudev, and I bring them to Gurudev. And we have our own small temple, something like that. So then after, when I was very, very sick, one time I was in the street, and then Krishna Chandra, and that was about 12 years later or 10 years later, when I first met Krishna Chandra, he was in ISKCON, and then after he met already Narayan Maharaj. So then I saw him on the street, and then he said to me, why don't you come to Italy? Why don't you also come to Italy? Your Guru Maharaj is there. And I was completely shattered. I mean, I couldn't believe it that my Gurudev is in Italy. All these years, I didn't really know because I was completely engaged all the time, and I was still thinking that I cannot see Gurudev. He's only with the brahmacharis, and I was just so much busy all the time. So then immediately at that time, I was not with Jagannath anymore. I left him I was never with him. We only did Seva together. I lived on my own place, but I had already a daughter, and she was 3 years old. So I grabbed her very quickly, and we went to Italy. And there I saw Gurudev for the first time. And I was just breaking out in tears. I couldn't believe it. It was so amazing for me to see him. To see him there after all these years. This was more than 15 years I didn't see him. And then I saw Krishna Chandra there, and he said to me, "Come take Harinam immediately." And so my daughter and me, we took Harinam there. And then after Harinam, it was very special because my daughter was only 3 years old, but I really took her to the fire and everything. And so I went to I didn't see her on the list. They gave me my name, but they didn't give her a name. And then I went to Damodar Maharaj and I said to him, but what is my daughter's name? And he said, oh, I said, he's not on the list. And then he said, oh, then she's called Anuradha. And so I wasn't sure about that. I wanted to be sure. I want that Gurudev give her the name. So I went to Gurudev and I asked him, is she really called Anuradha? And he looked at me like that and he said, yes, she's really Anuradha. So that was actually my first interaction with Gurudev. And I actually brought him all these pictures from the incarnation book. And he looked at them. And when I see that he looked at them, I realized that he never see them. He never saw them. So I was absolutely shocked. And after I knew I need to go to Vrindavan as soon as possible. And I was on the seashore walking, and then I saw Sachin Maharaj. And I asked him, can you please give me permission to go to Vrindavan? And that was so sweet because he said, okay, let me meditate upon it. He was walking up and down on the sea. And then after a while, he came to me and he said, yes, you can go. And then 2009, I went to Vrindavan, and I remember it was so amazing arriving there in Gopinath Bhavan. And the first person I met was Vrinda Devi, and she was doing her Chapamala. And then after Shashikala came, and she was so sweet, like a mother. It was like I knew her for forever. It was really like coming home. It was so very special to arrive there, finally. And then also, then Tunga Vidya came and in her room, and it was just so amazing. I really felt like finally I'm home. And after 2 days already, I was introduced to Shamarani Didi, and she immediately took me in her room and she said, you can clean here. And every day she said I should clean her puja. And I was helping her, assisting her. I was sending her canvases, especially the last one that she did now. And then she said to me, why don't you come and live with your daughter here and we paint together? And that was really quite amazing. And I really felt I just want to drop everything. I never go back home again. I'm just staying here. And also Vasanti was there. And Ranga Devi came sometimes in the room. And then Gurudev was in Mathura at that time. And so I went to Mathura with my daughter for 2 days or 3 days, and then we came back after that. And when we came back, Shamarani Didi said, Gurudev will come soon, because it was getting to, we were staying 3 months there. So it was getting towards Kartik. And so she said, you're a good cleaner, you should go and clean Gurudev's rooms. So then I was going to his rooms and we stayed there long time, and we cleaned his rooms and I organized his clothes in the cupboard. And yeah, then we were also, then when he arrived, so many devotees came, and the hall was crowded and absolutely full. And I remember one very sweet time. Then I was, when all the devotees came in Gopinath Bhavan, I had hardly any space anymore. So I went up on the ceiling, which is just beside Gurudev's room there on the side. And I thought, I really just want to see Gurudev. He's in that room now, and I really wish to see him. And then I saw how immediately the curtain was like this, and I saw Gurudev quickly, and then he closed again. So many of these kind of things happened with me, with Srila Gurudev, very, very sweetly. I don't know how much time I have. How much time? Do I still have time?
2 minutes, Didi, 2 minutes.
Okay. So let me see the sweetest. So the very, actually one very, very sweet interaction with Gurudev was before, when actually Kartik already started. It was the second day or the first day. Then my daughter quickly, all of a sudden, she was gone. And then she came back with a garland around her neck. And I said, who did you get this garland from? And she said, from Gurudev, like this, from Gurudev. And then it was going to finish, and Gurudev was starting to walk on the side towards his room, like on the left side from the stage. So I was standing in the middle, and I thought, oh my God, I cannot go there. There are so many people. I cannot go and see Gurudev there. And I was really, really sad. And I was wishing, I wish he would come here. And then I saw Gurudev starting walking. And then immediately as I thought that, I wish that he would come here. He came straight through all the devotees towards me. And he smiled at me with a very, very big face, smile. and there was like a ray of light coming out of his eye. And it really touched me so deeply. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. And then he was like really jokingly going to my daughter, and because she was so proud having this garland for him, so she was going like this. So Gurudev went and he took the garland and he made like this, as if he want to rip it off. And then he was laughing at me very much. And then he was passing on to his room. But in that moment was like, I was just alone there with him and my daughter and nobody else. It was really like a very special space. So there would be much more to say. Yeah, maybe one more thing. After I had to go, and I was saying to Gurudev, because I want him to not go. I want him to say after these 3 months, please stay here forever. Put your daughter in a school here and stay with me forever here. But I had to go back. And so I asked him, Gurudev, I have to go back, meaning I don't want to go back, do something, you know. And then he said, okay, just go back, just go home. And I was so shocked about that. And I told Shashikala Didi what Gurudev said. And then she said, you have to really understand what Gurudev meant by that. And I was not satisfied with that. I thought, oh, how can I understand this? Just go home. But after this, he started sending all his exalted Vaisnavas and devotees to me, like Avadhut Maharaj, Shamarani Didi, Uma Didi came to my home, and so many others. And yeah, and then I had such deep and wonderful connections with all the devotees since then, and especially Brajana Prabhu. He came first with Niskinchana Maharaj.
Wrap it up now, Didi.
Yeah, okay. So, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Gurudev. All glories to all the Vaisnavas. All glories to Shishi Guru Ankaranga. Dandavat pranams. Hare Krishna.
Always my apologies for intervening, but Gurudev actually used to be quite funny because he used to limit, I think he had time limits on all his sannyasis speaking, and sometimes he'd ring the bell, and I think some of the sannyasis just used to completely pretend they didn't hear the bell. And so it was quite a funny kind of interaction between Gurudev ringing the bell and the sannyas sort of like complying or not, because they got very enthusiastic. But I have to say, I'm so happy that Manjalari pressed you to speak, because that was a beautiful Pushpanjali. And what really struck me at the beginning, which is something I've seen more and more, actually, it's something that Yeshadari woke me up to the most, because you got so much from Gurudev even before you met him. So there's a lot of devotees that received inspiration and mercy from Gurudev before meeting, and a lot of devotees that didn't even meet him, and there are even devotees that only found out about Srila Gurudev after he disappeared. And all these three types of devotees have got incredibly empowered by Srila Gurudev. So I was really struck by that in your story at the beginning, how much you got from Srila Gurudev before you actually met him. And that shows you the power of his Vani and the power of his mercy. And we should remember that on this 100th appearance year, because yes, we are in separation, but he said, I'm closer to you than the air that you breathe. And that is a very, very, very deep and impactful instruction. The other thing, Didi, is when you went to Gopinath Bhavan, Haribol? Oh,
yes, I hear you.
Beautiful artwork. When you went to Gopinath Bhavan, it was really interesting. You were saying about how all the ladies there were so sweet, like Vasanti and Vrinda Didi and Vrindavan Vilasini. And it reminds me of a story of my friend Dilip, his father, who's Indian, living in Delhi. I seem to recall he was quite an intellectual, and he'd seen a lot of gurus in India. He was very suspicious of gurus in general. But when Dilip Prabhu took his father to Gopinath Bhavan and met the very same ladies that you were talking about, he was so impressed by Gurudev's disciples, this was after Gurudev's disappeared, that he bowed down and honored Gurudev's picture. So it shows you how as devotees, our behavior is a glorification. Our good behavior, that is a glorification of our Gurudev. So thank you so much, Didi. That was
thank you so much also. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So we now move over to the United States to a wonderful speaker who only had a small amount of time in comparison to his experience, to offer his Pushpanjali during this 55 that became a 59-hour Zoomathon. He's quite fond of telling us how he likes guns. So instead of, which I love, so instead of packing steel and firing blanks, he's packing honey and firing nectar all day long. He's quite a character and a big personality, a beautiful Sevak of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. He met in 1968 and has told me several times, and in his Pushpanjali has explained how he challenged Srila Prabhupada as in terms of his status as guru. He's not afraid to voice his doubts. But he met Srila Prabhupada. So he met the devotees in 68 actually. He met Prabhupada in 69. So he goes back a long way. There's a lot of, he's almost like a totem of history in his own right. He took Harinam in 73, Diksha in 75, and met Srila Gurudev amazingly back in 75. And it's something you should, I mean, we repeat ourselves here, but nectar repeated is always ever fresh. And Yashdari and I often make the point that we are so indebted to our Prabhupada disciples. We are the Trustafarians of the spiritual entrepreneurs. You are the spiritual entrepreneurs that carried the first message from Srila Prabhupada. And we're the Trustafarians just trying not to spend unwisely, trying to build on that. So we're ever and eternally grateful to you for your incredible dedication to Srila Prabhupada. So I very warmly welcome Sriman Mahaprabhu, Sriman Mahabudhi Prabhu. Sorry, so I elevated you there somewhat, Prabhu. And can you remind me where you live, because I don't have that on your bio, and then please offer your Pushpanjali. You're getting a double slot of 40 minutes, Prabhu. So, but I know that won't be enough either. But go for it.
Still get your bell ready. I'm in the hills of West Virginia. I'm looking outside my window with about 6 to 8 inches of snow up here. So I was relating to our Zurich speakers over there, figuring like it's probably cold there as well. So I guess it's my opportunity. Please let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual masters. Om Agnyat Marandasya Gyananjana Salakaye Chaksuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Slapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavams Cham Sri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitam Cham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshaka Pratubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyebacham Patitanam Bhavanebhya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasri Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tesam Satiti Yuktanam Bhajatam Kriti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mamupayanti Te. Let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Niti Lila Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pabhajaka Acharya Astatata Satashi Sriman, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanaravindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And with the same Dandavat Pranams and heartfelt Puspanjali, I offer my respectful obeisances unto my Shiksha Guru, Niti Lila Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pavajaka Acharya Astatata Satashi Sriman Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my Param Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and to all our Gaudiya Varga gurus, both past, present, and future, and to my humble respectful obeisances unto all the Vaisnavas and Vaishnavis who are attending this wonderful program set up by the London devotees today. So as Yasodananda Prabhu said, I'm an old man compared, I guess we as we met with Srila Prabhupada way back in 1968, and we did challenge him. But before that, I had made a vow when I was 13 years old that I wanted to know what the absolute truth was. And so I stopped reading any fiction, anything like that, and just went through the Old and New Testament, the Quran, the old, Buddhist literatures and so many other religious traditions. And then it wasn't until, about 8-9 years later when I was teaching as a freshman in college, a religion course, because my teachers hated that I asked so many questions they couldn't answer. So they challenged me to give a class, to take the class off. And I did. Then they asked me to do the rest of the semester, which is interesting. But I didn't know anything about God. And so luckily I prayed very hard. And when I went to a bookstore, Srila Prabhupada's book fell on my head. And when I read it, my life changed. And then I went, because I also was very skeptical and challenging type devotee, I went to Prabhupada when he had found out he was coming to America and challenged him if he's a real guru. So I won't go into all those stories, but it's important to understand that I was fortunate in hearing so many of these wonderful pastimes from the different devotees that had even just a little bit of association with Gurudev. I feel very, very sad in my heart that with so much association I have with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, that, I feel like a devotee just wasted my time, not respectful enough or not responsive enough of even after so much association, not contributing very much into, this Gaudiya Sampradaya. So I apologize, first of all, to all the devotees that, that we may be older devotee, but instead of leading the way, we're just kind of jumping along here and there. So, but I think it's important that I speak of Gurudev's, some of his teachings that, he had come several times to South Florida. We had correspondence and very heartfelt correspondences. He had come, and I spoke during the other thing about my first meetings with Gurudev. But he had also come in 2003, we put on a festival, and there was maybe 400 or 500 devotees, and Srila Gurudev would speak. And there was primarily, we held it in an Indian temple, and there was mostly Indians and the devotees that we had from our Sangha. And this was like the first time kind of in South Florida that, we had, established Srila Gurudev's mission. It started a little earlier, but he had come and then let other people come. So we brought him to the biggest Venkateshwar temple also. And there I knew the priests and stuff. So Gurudev spoke in this big hall, and all of the big members of the Sri Sampradaya temple all came to see Srila Gurudev. And there were probably maybe 200-300 people in the audience. And Gurudev gave this lecture all about just the starting from Krishna's pastimes and ending up with Krishna Lila, and everyone was just like, you could hear a pin drop. It was so fantastic, and so no one had heard all that. At least I hadn't heard that time. Had heard so much nectar rolled into, and Gurudev spoke a little longer than he normally spoke, a little over an hour, which normally he doesn't do. And everybody there, including the entire board of directors for the Sri Venkateshwar temple that was there, were just amazed at and all coming up and offering respects to Gurudev. So when Gurudev wanted to let devotees know about the pastimes of Krishna, he turned himself into a spokesman of Radha and Krishna, that so much so that even if one had never met him before or even heard anything about Krishna, they would come out with their teary eyes. This is our nature of our Srila Gurudev. So there were other times. One of the first times we had, at that time, we started introducing a lot of devotees. So our preaching center, we preached out of our houses. We didn't have a temple, but over the course, as we said the last time, over the course of several years, there was over 150 devotees of Srila Gurudev that was made in our humble little preaching areas in South Florida. And so Gurudev came back again in 2008. And in 2008, we held another festival, and this time about 700 devotees showed up. And I co-managed it also along with Bhagavat Prabhu, or Maharaj now. And at that time, it was being filmed, and I remember Kirtan Swami had come, and he had just got out of prison, and he wanted to come to apologize and take the shelter of Srila Gurudev. So that was an interesting thing. And there also Gurudev spoke on such high katha. And the kirtans were very, very wonderful. And of course, during that same year, he had decided that he would come back and he'd spend a month in Miami over at Raghunath's house on the beach. And there, it would be on the 7th floor of this high rise right on Miami Beach, right on the ocean, right, you'd walk out and there was a sand. So every day for 30 days, we'd go on walks. He'd come, I think Madhavrata and Madhav Maharaj and Raghunath and Brajanath were there. And then different times, Padmanabh Maharaj came, and Leelanath and some of the devotees. But every day that, was so fortunate that Srila Gurudev would go on this walk, and he would always, at least when I was there, we would always generally, if the weather was fine, we would sit on these lounge chairs and right down at the bottom of the, and then it would be questions and answers. So we had a great opportunity to ask, and so many questions. Some of them are in the, Walking with a Saint, but so many questions were able to answer. And Gurudev was like, open to, wanting to hear questions. I think one of my services was on walks, whether it's in Badger or Alachua or Miami, was to always field questions and, pertinent topics. So he would wait sometimes, okay, Mahabudhi, come on. And, at that point in times, we would ask, questions that, relevant, not, we were on walks before when, sometimes people would ask really stupid kinds of questions. They just wanted to say something to Gurudev. But Gurudev wanted, we tried to ask questions in such a way that Guru could expand, enlightenment. So one day we talked about coming to Guru. So he was telling us, and he was saying, just like your own experience, he told me that the Guru comes to the disciple, not the other way around. In other words, it's not like, I chose and I came to Srila Gurudev, I came to Srila Prabhupada. No, it's actually when the Chaitya Guru in the heart is when you're crying out for a Guru and you don't know what is at that point in time, Guru gets in touch through internal, through heart with the Guru, and then the Guru comes, and the Guru comes to you, not you come to him. So this was a unique enlightenment, and then he was saying that, and then it was just so happened later that year, or later the next month, I think it was, there was in Alachua, he went up to Alachua, and in Alachua there was many people would come on a morning walk, you know. So I remember Mukunda and others, they can also remember some of those. So on this one walk, all these devotees, the many devotees that were saying, oh, I came to Gurudev, I came like this, and this happened, and I came like this, and I was just listening. And maybe 3 or 4 people was telling their story, how they came to Gurudev. And then I thought, this is kind of unusual, because Gurudev just told me the complete opposite. He said, you know, but I didn't say anything. And so they're all, after about the 4th person in, Gurudev stopped and stop, you're all wrong. And everyone was dead quiet. And, you know, I was thinking, oh, here it comes. And then he goes, Mahabudhi, he says, tell them. So at that point in time, he asked me, and I told the different devotees, it's not that you have all the different aspects that you're saying that you have come to Srila Gurudev. These are all arranged by Krishna and Guru, and the Guru comes to you, not the other way around. So, you know, it's not that our great knowledge or our great circumstances that we've come to Guru, but they're by our real emphasis in the heart, our real heartfelt longing. Then Chaitanya Guru will hear and will send appropriate Guru to you, that according to your desire. If you're sincere, you'll get a sincere Guru. If you want to cheat, you'll get a cheating Guru, like that. So that was one instruction. Then on the next one of the next is we were talking about, and he was saying to me about, we were talking about knowledge versus, bhakti. And it got around, we spoke and we were talking, and somehow the topic got around to a particular devotee. And I said, this devotee, he knows, like, he can lap me about 100 times in Atma Tattva. What do I know of anything? So he said, and then Gurudev interrupted me, said, no, this is Gyan. And I was like, seriously? I mean, this is all, knowledge about, about the soul, knowledge about our sampradaya, so many different intricate aspects. This is Gyan. And he said, it says, you have bhakti, this is Gyan. And I'm going, I have bhakti. And I'm kind of like going, seriously? I was actually laughing. I thought he was joking with me, but he wasn't. And so then he would say to me, he said, and I keep saying, well, look, I am just trying to obtain Shraddha. I haven't even lucky, I hadn't even got to the Kanista platform. Then he said, no, you were Madhyam. Then I became I go, seriously, I mean, from the qualifications, if you ever read Madhurya Kandamini, it's like, I would always remember telling that in my classes that we give, the more every page you read in the Madhurya Kandamini, you start chopping yourself down lower and lower and lower, and you wonder, should I even make it to Shraddha yet? So during that time, of course, we didn't have that book, but I was feeling like I don't know anything what to speak of. And he said, no, he says, you Guru Nista. He said that, that this is your devotion is devotion. It's not based on Gyan. It's not based on anything else. So I started arguing with him. Of course, and then he goes, and then he went to the platform of saying, can you give this up? He was very, very strong at me. He said, can you give this up? And I said, no, because I actually tried one time. I think, well, I when Gurudev would say challenge, he said one time earlier, I'll just divert for a second. He said one time earlier, he said, Krishna can maintain you. He said, you can try. So at one point in time, I was switching jobs and I decided, okay, I'm not going to work for several months and see how I maintain. But actually speaking, during all those times, somehow or other, that, everything was being paid for by donations, or my brother gave something, and so many different things would all take for us. So at the end of the month, even though we weren't making anything, everything was maintained. So I go, wow, so I'm one of those guys who would test stuff, so I just don't take it for granted. So Gurudev said, "Can you give this up?" I said, "No." And he said, and he asked that famous questions where he would ask other devotees, "Where do you want to go?" And of course, I was, in the wanting to, because of Gurudev's teachings, which without Gurudev's teaching, we would have not even know what is our set with our sadhya, our destination. And so I gave the right destination. He goes, there, he said, then you are Mandi. And then enough, don't say anything more. So like that argument was kind of over, but he was saying, it's not that gyan, it's not that we're looking to be, we use our brain and we have to acquire so much knowledge. We have to understand the concept, basic concepts. And this was later proved when we were in at least for me, Prabhupada had told me that every day I have to chant, this one prayer. And he made me promise, in Atlanta in 1976, this verse, Tesam Satati Uttanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mama Payantite. So in my services of the BBT Library Party, and even in my 5 years of service of running all of Prabhupada's darshans and things like that, this verse, I at the end, everything that came a part of me seems like it's all direct to the heart. Whatever I know, whatever I can say, it's not something that I've studied, or just basic. If it is not given to us in the heart, then how can we say anything? So later in Houston, there was we were there, I think, with Bhumipati and Puru at that time. And there was a discussion about sannyas. They're like, oh, you should give sannyas. So he said to Puru, he can take sannyas. This was before Puru left this world. He said he could take sannyas if he wants. And I think Bhumipati, I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said something he'll have to ask his wife. And for me, he looked at me and said, he'll take whenever he's ready. And so the next question, I think Bhumipati Prabhu brought up the question that we're trying to preach this mission, but we're not scholars. We don't know Sanskrit. And he's very humbly presenting like that. And I think I chimed in and said, I don't even know anything. I mean, lucky, I know a few verses, even anything. So Gurudeva told us, that it's important to know the concepts. Not you have to know Sanskrit, or you have to have so much knowledge of so many books. You have to know the concepts, understand the concepts, be able to communicate those. And then in my part, he also said, you also must know the moods. And then, so he told us that. But he said, if whatever you know from your heart, and you give that to others, he said, they will be greatly benefited, and it will also benefit you. So I think my platform was pretty much chalked out that, if it's not given to the heart, I'm probably not doing anything. And now I see so many years later, Bhumipati's became like a scholar, so much, information. I mean, if anyone gets a chance to see his or Mukunda Prabhu's, classes, they'd be very much appreciative. And from my point, I'm lucky if I still know a few verses, whatever I know it's either coming from the blessings from Srila Gurudeva or Srila Prabhupada to allow us to say anything, to understand anything. So in that same vein, that he again spoke to me during that same period, and he started saying that you have to read the books of the Goswamis and the corollary literatures on this Radha Dasyan. And I'm going, I said, again in that same mood, I said, Srila, I don't have any samskars. I'm like a Kshatriya, essentially. Everything you've given me, even my services in ISKCON, my services even for him, has all been in management. I mean, it's not like I'm not, I can manage things, set things up, but I mean, now you're asking me to, to dive deep into these literatures. What kind of samskars? We have no abilities. And you must read them. And so I kept on this vein and saying, I don't have any qualification unless you qualification. Then he told me he's, you know, how important it is to understand this for me. He said, you know, he said that when I kept inquiring like that, he finally said, Rupa Goswami will personally instruct you on this. And then I was quiet because I didn't know what else to say on that. And I thought, you know, and I checked again, was this like kidding with me or not? But he was dead serious. So even my service now, my service is, you know, hiding out here in the hills of West Virginia. His service is like to read these books and to preach on these books. So there's a small group of people that attend. You know, we give classes 3 nights a week, and we've been reading. We've read Jaiva Dharma, we've read Manasa Siksha, we've read Krishna Karnamrita, we've read Bhajan Rahasya, Madhura Kandamini, you know, Sri Rasa Panchadaya, Vilapa Kusmanjali, Sri Bhakti Prema Bhakti Chandrika, all these books we're reading, which is just, the moods are so high. And he's given us the association of Narottam Das Thakur, of Vishwanath Chakravarti, you know, of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rupa Goswami and Vati Manjari, and Rupa Goswami and Rupa Manjari, Vati Manjari, and Raghunath Das Goswami, Vila Mangal, all these, you know, all of these wonderful acharyas, which where would we ever have the opportunity to even aspire just for a little bit of a drop of mercy from them, if it wasn't for Gurudev translating these books and also his disciples who have helped him this way. So we're so much indebted in that aspiration. We are, the only service we're doing now is simply, you know, I guess we're working on our bhajan, I guess, to have, where's the goal? And understanding these things. Gurudev said, I must understand these and preach. Anabilasada Sunyam, and also on Dasmula, and also on this platform of Radhadasya. And I'm thinking, he could have picked a qualified person, right? He's giving me these things. I mean, if he would have told me to, establish an army and go, fight against the demons, I would have probably been the first to volunteer. But he's giving me all these, the mission that's like, oh, these are, these kinds of things are for advanced devotees. And I don't, I was thinking one day, and it was in the, it was Srila Gurudev's Vyas Puja in Alachua. And I was sitting in the back, and there was like 500-600 people in the back. And I was thinking about, with all these teachings from Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Krishnadas covered all these things. I'm thinking in Prabhupada, I said, how can someone like us, reach this platform of prema? It's impossible. It's becoming hopeless. Zila's actually back there. This is hopeless. How can anyone from the West? We have no sanskars. We didn't even know how to eat. We didn't know who Krishna was. So then in front of me, at that time, they were doing arti to Srila Gurudev on his Vyas Puja. So in front of me, Madhav Maharaj comes in front of me, and I'm way in the back, and he says, Srila Gurudev wants to talk to you. And I said, now? They're doing arti to him. He said, now? He wants to talk to you. So I had to go all the way up, the Pujari sitting, offering incense to Gurudev. I had to go all the way up to, to his Vyasasan, and he has me come closer. And then he has put my ear to where he can hear, and he goes, don't become hopeless. So we should understand how fortunate we are with having, these association with these Param Bhagavats. Because as we said, even we're seeing from the devotees who just was at a glance, who just maybe like Yasodhananda said, maybe after so many years, maybe just had a little bit of them. Maybe like I was feeling when I was running Prabhupada's darshans, I had to let only so many people in. And some people wanted to come in all the time, but other people had never seen Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada. So I'd have to say, no, you can't come in, and you can come in because you've never even had this experience before. So I'm sure I was the bane for some of my god brothers and god sisters, because I was very strict on who could come in, who cannot, just as Prabhupada told me. But I'm thinking how wonderful just hearing all these lectures from and glorifications from all the devotees who just even had a moment association, how strong that verse in the Mahabharata is. that even a lava 16-second association can change your life. So going forward, he also made me promise that, you know, that I will teach this thing. And he spoke also about, we had said we have a college. I don't know if anyone knows, we have Florida Veda College. And Gurudev said, I want this expanded. Of course, you know, now 10 years later, I haven't really done that either. But he wants this expanded. He said, many, many big preachers will come from this school. So I'm imagining probably after I die, someone will probably take, you know, do it, and it'll become popular, you know, that where people will come and they'll learn. And the difference of this school is we didn't want to make it like follow the platform of regular schools. We wanted a school that, you know, taught the absolute truth and not worry about, you know, whether you're meeting your English requirement or if you had the sciences. I mean, whether we teach Vedic sciences or philosophy, this is what Gurudev wanted. He wanted educated devotees, you know, that would, and they didn't mean that have to be college graduates. We have doctorate degrees and college graduates. That doesn't mean anything. What he wanted is to study these literatures and be recognized, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Shastra, like this, and with the Bhaktis. And he said, and he told me, many people, the leaders of the world, at some point, they'll come and they'll want to hear from the devotees who will be the educators, rather than we go to these Karmi institutions and they teach us. So this is one of the other things he said. Of course, and another thing I haven't done and probably won't be done. And then we talked another thing about grihastas and sannyasis. And so one of the topics we talked about was, I said, in the Gaudiya math, it seems like only the preachers, every one of the preachers supposed to just be a sannyasi. I said, it's so different when Prabhupada had grihastas. So many places were built up from grihastas, but here everyone's dependent that a sannyasi has to preach. I said, why is that? So then I won't say we were arguing, but we were debating a little bit. And, you know, he said, what's the harm? You know, there's so much preaching you do. Do I need to make sannyasis because they're fully dedicated? Grihastas, sometimes they have so many responsibilities. I said, yeah, that's true. But then he goes, but actually your point is well taken. He said to me, my spiritual master, Bhakti Pragyan Keshava, said that if a grihasta is following Trinadapi Sunichena, Tororapi Sahismuna, Amani Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahadi, if he's following that and truly in his heart, then he is much better than a sannyasi that has pratishta, that is proud of his position and simply wants to lord over and enjoy. He said such a sannyasi like that is much, much lower than a grihasta who's following the Trinadapi Sunichena. Just like it was said in one of the other glorifications, I'll give you that Siddha Panali. What is that Siddha Panali? That same verse. And he said, Prabhupada said, you should string this verse around your neck and wear it. So that should be our goal. Because as we know, and as these teachings like Manasa Shiksha, the understanding that this pratishta is like donkey urine, this, you know, desire for prominence. But in this material world, which is temporary. Like, why would we want, it's like going to a motel, right? You know, trying to make it the most when we were just traveling through. So, you know, this platform, you know, whatever we've been given, whatever we should think. I know I made this mistake when I was a brahmachari, thinking I was getting so much, you know, recognition, myself and Bhakti Tirtha Swami, for all the books we put in the libraries, all the reviews, we were out thousands of books who were written up in the Sankirtan newsletter like every month. And so I started believing, you know, the print, which is very, you know, that's not a good thing to do. And then when I got to Chicago and Prabhupada came to Chicago, I went through boom, 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 you know, stepped on Srila Prabhupada's feet, you know, got chastised for this. Prabhupada stopped an entire Guru Puja with 600 people and stopped it. And Mahabudhi, what is this dancing? Guru Kripa Swami and myself were doing what they now, young kids were doing, like practically flopping the audience, doing wild dances up and down. Prabhupada stopped the Guru Puja and chastised, what is this dancing, Mahabudhi? Because he knew me, because we would run his darshans and everything. We were acting wild. And then he has Brahmananda, Brahmananda, show them how to dance. And Brahmananda was shocked. And he finally put his arms up and started doing the Swami. And then, you know, everyone started doing the Swami. And I drifted back to the 500 verse. I couldn't even see Prabhupada after that time. So I realized, and then I had finally, after offending in Prabhupada another 2 times that same week, I had put my bead bag in the Brahmacharya ashram, and I decided I have to commit suicide because I've offended my spiritual master, then my life is finished. So I left my bead bag in the ashram in Chicago and started walking to Lake Michigan, and to give up my life. But you know, somewhere about a block into it, Satsvarup was calling out, Prabhupada wants to see you. And I goes, I didn't want to see Prabhupada. Everything I did was offensive. So I didn't try not to listen. But later I listened, and he sent a car and we had to go back. And one of the things in front of Prabhupada was I didn't pay obeisances this one time because I was setting up a book table, but he had just told all the reporters, all his disciples, pay obeisances. Prabhupada got mad at me. So this time I paid obeisances, and I was very humbly lifted my head up to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had this big smiling grin and practically almost laughing, you know, so you really think you were to the doer, huh? It's kind of like, and then we could realize that we did nothing. And then he goes, this is my disciple, Mahabudhi Das. And then he had me speak to the mayors and the state senators and a lot of the big people about, you know, the universities and the education stuff, what we're doing. But I learned from that point, we're not doing anything. You know, if we're fortunate to be called out by a Param Bhakta to do some service, that we're just his instrument. Everything is being done by them. So that is an important thing to understand. So some of the other teachings that he had said to me, and this was in Houston. He had sent to me. So, you know, every year I would ask Gurudev, and every year I asked Prabhupada, and every year I'd ask Gurudev. He said, "How do I become serious?" Because I just seemed that, you know, even with all association, everything, when will I become serious? When will I actually, you know, take the heart of a devotee, not just not Pratista, not any. You know, just, but when will I become serious to take up this mission, to take up these instructions? So then Gurudev said to me, you know, he told me finally after this, everyone said, by becoming serious, Prabhupada would say every year. And Gurudev said and finally he said, then he started giving me these page of instructions of Anabilasada Sunyam and Das Mula and so many things that I have to do. But then he goes, so how much are you giving to Krishna? 25%. You are managing hospitals, you have family, sons and son and wife and others. They said that, you know, what are you giving? 25%. So how much can you expect? If you give 25%, then you will get 25%. You know, that, you know, the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So if you're giving 25%, why do you think you're going to get 100%? So we're following the platform of the gopis, he would say. What is these Braja Devis? They gave 100%. They gave up everything. Gave up family. Gave up their chastity. Gave up following babies. They've given everything. This is the mood. So then he said in that saying, he said to me, he said, you will have to become just like the 6 Goswamis. And then the whole room quieted down, and I was like practically shaking at that time. He said, no, you will have to come. He said, you'll end up everything, no wife, no son, no home, everything. You'll be like you at some point will become like a beggar on the street, and only begging and only hearing Harikatha and doing Harikatha. So at this point, you can imagine I was a little, I just been hit in the jaw. You know, I'm just hanging on to the ropes before the knockout. And then everyone was like really quiet. Then he turned to the rest of the people in the room. You will all have to do this. So then everyone started shaking, right? Because we realized what is the mood what is the platform we're coming in? We're coming in this Sampradaya, and we're following the Braja Devis, the Braja Bhakti, and this Braja Bhakti. What is the example? The Manjaris, they gave up everything for the love of Krishna and the service of Radharani. So So you want this Prema Bhakti, you want this Raganuga Bhakti, you want this Rupanuga Bhakti. It means that you have to surrender completely to Guru Varga, to the Manjaris, and follow in their footsteps and hear their Harikatha. How potent this Harikatha is. So another aspect that he had given, and there we had spoken. Also, there was I remember in Hawaii, I'm kind of rambling around because there were so many different things that Gurudev told me. So in Hawaii, I gave that little bit of example, but how Gurudev had allowed us to enter and allow us to see him in his Manjari meditation, in his spiritual meditation. In that we were in the Hawaii, in the Big Island, and so many nice lectures and wonderful thing. I happened to be in a garden when Gurudev was there, and just the two of us, and he was like bending down and picking like weeds, and I was wondering what's going on, And anyway, I didn't say anything. And then Gurudev then came and speaking in Samadhi Bhas. He would go, come pick, we have to pick these flowers. We have to pick flowers for Srimati Radharani. She's making a garland. Hurry, we must do this now. And so I was like, I mean, obviously Gurudev was in his Samadhi meditation, and I was somewhere, in the state of Hawaii, nowhere close to any spiritual, but he was inclusive of us, even though we didn't understand anything. We could understand Srila Gurudev was, even inclusive in seeing us as a parakar, as a and he'd always treat us as a friend and always give us so much counseling and so much, not just respect, but so much, some loving relation. So I saw that, and we were able to see that in Coral Springs, and we've also even saw that in Prabhupada. Prabhupada would go into Samadhi and chanting Radha Madhava, and tears. I was sitting in Atlanta, and tears were coming out horizontally, and I got hit with one of tears from Prabhupada, as not going vertically down, but horizontally out from his eyes, and he became stunned in chanting Radha Madhava. So he was also, no one knew what to do, and finally, Hansaduta Prabhu was there, and he was chanting Hare Krishna. And so finally, Hare Krishna, shortly Prabhupada came back, but he allowed us to enter into his realm. And also in 2001 in San Diego, during the festival there, he was talking about Uddhava, and Uddhava coming to Vrindavan, and how everything was wonderful and gaiety, and the cows were jumping, and all the bodhis were in bliss. And then in the next minute, his mood changed, and it became very sudden, because now it moved into Vipralamba, and how seeing the cobwebs and Mother Yasoda, and there's no cooking that's going on. Cobwebs was in the kitchen. How Radharani was, laying on a bed of leaves and burning. The leaves would be burning. They were putting a cotton to her nostril to see if she's still alive. And you could see Gurudev's mood change, and he brought everybody into those moods. So these were gifts to anyone who was there, during these times, to have the opportunity to see like that. So I'm not sure how many more things I can do without doing. So then also at that time, just as he in Hawaii, we were walking back in, he put his hand on my chest, and he said to me, I have already taken your heart. You have given everything. Because every day, every time I would meet Gurudev, we had this wonderful mango tree. It was in front of our house that we planted, and had the sweetest mangoes. People in our whole, around where we'd live would all be like, can you bear a few mangoes? And the mango tree would give hundreds of mangoes. And so it was my duty every time I came to see Prabhupada, see Srila Gurudev, whether it was in Miami or whether we went to a festival, whether it was Hawaii or Texas or any of the places, or India even in India, I have to bring these mangoes. I would bring some mangoes to Gurudev. Gurudev would quickly, yes. He nodded, and he put in his pocket, or he'd go call him Madhamarsan and tell him, save these. So he would take these mangoes, and these mangoes were very sweet. actually, we just moved from Florida here to West Virginia. And the hardest thing giving up my house there was realizing this mango tree had so much Mahaprasad from Radha Madhava, so many mangoes given to Srila Gurudev and to other devotees and service. I was thinking this mango tree is so much more advanced than I am. You know, it was so hard giving up that association for just that tree. Imagine it's just a tree, but that tree was giving so much its fruits directly to us, to a Mahabudhi. How amazing that is. So what, you know, so in this way, Srila Gurudev was so kind. And so when we were walking back in the room, as he put his hand on my target, again, he chanted that mantra, Tisam Satutam, just in case I forgot that he already knows. And he told me earlier that your Gurudev,
Prabhu.
Okay, I'm just going to wrap up a little bit. Just your Gurudev has sent me to help you. And then he said, this is an important thing. He said, being a Vaishnava Acharya in the Gaudiya Sampradaya is like having a target on your back. You will get, you know, he said, in this Kali Yuga, any of the Acharyas, if they're real Acharya, they'll have a target in the back and they'll be shot at by all the Kali Chelas and all the people wanting to get to it. So my last thing, I'll stop, because there's so many more stories, like, you know, I'm already past the bell ringing, but Srila Gurudev was not only our Shiksha Guru, but he was our friend. He was our, you know, I miss his conversations, his instructions, his association. He gave me the name Mahabudhi. He never called me Mahabudhi. He called me Mahabudhi, ocean of devotion, of prema. My brothers, he gave, you know, is also a Shiksha disciple. My son's a disciple. My wife's a disciple of Srila Gurudev. He installed Radha Madhava deities. Our deities are installed. He took from the shalagram I have, he pulled off the leaf and told me not to worship with Vishnu mantras, but only Radha Krishna mantras, and only worship Radha and Krishna. And he told me not to kill anyone, because he said I was previously a Narasingha Bhakta some period of my lifetime, and I have the power to curse. When I send people back, I've killed people. So he said, only use it to protect devotees. And so I'm so thankful to all the devotees in this opportunity to have remembered Srila Gurudev and my Srila Prabhupada, that if they didn't come into our life, we would be nothing. And I apologize for being not a very good devotee. He told me to preach boldly, and today I am not preaching boldly. I'm preaching with my heart. Hare Krishna.
Mahabudhi Prabhu. I was going to ask you if you were in the Shringa Bhakta. That's what I felt that from you, actually. So you answered that question beautifully. And when we were discussing your bio, there's a little bit in there where you said that in 1968 you'd protected the devotees from Christian heckling, and that you'd ate 10 luglus, and they were very impressed. Can you just tell us that little story?
Well, I had a following when I was in I guess I was a freshman, and people would come to me, and I was given some future and stuff like that. So one day the people come, they're the Buddhist on campus, the Buddhist on campus. So I had my football jersey on because we had a game later that day. So I wanted to go see him. So I went to go see him, and they had free speech areas those times. And back, you know, this is the 60s, you know, so they were chanting, the devotees were chanting Hare Krishna, and in between they had this Christian heckler, you're going to hell, you're a demon, and just like stuff like that. So I was trying to listen to what they say, and here they said, I was amazed. I'd never seen anyone devotee so renounced before. So finally, you know, he's just going on and on. So I went over there. I was a linebacker, so I was somewhat violent, and I guess I still am, but you know, anyway, I went to maybe a quarter of an inch from his face, and he said, if you're not out of here by the 3, I'm going to pick you up and plant you head first into the ground. And he said something to me, and I said, that's 1. And he said, well, that's 2. And then he ran off, and as he just ran away, because I literally would have pounded his head first into the ground. I was that kind of person. And then Mother Akuti, which is Dina Badhu's wife, who was also there and chanting, she came over there and gave me this laglu. And I had never in my life tasted, this was just fucking, so I ate one, and I figured, because I gave $1 donation, they gave me it back to Godhead. So I figured there must be $1 each. So I gave her $10, and they just gave me, 10 luglus. And then I just, one after another, popped them all in my mouth and ate them all, like right at the time. And they just looked at me like, huh? And so that was my first tasting of prasadam. And then the next tasting, last thing, I was at this Satsvarup Maharaj and Hridayananda Goswami was at my university, and they were preaching. And so they came out with this whole cookie tray, how big those big cookie trays, strawberry burfi. So they, would you like some, some burfi? I said, fine. So I took the whole tray and ate the whole tray of strawberry burfi, and the devotees had never seen anyone so eat a whole tray of now I would die if I did that. But at that time I ate a whole tray of strawberry burfi. And I think, so I don't know if I came to Srila Prabhupada, be the philosophy, be the books, or prasadam. But I can say one more thing, just a tiny thing. The first books I sent away from, as I was in my study platform, I sent away to Mayapur before I even read Prabhupada's books. I sent $50 to Mayapur and read for Jaiva Dharma, the Bhagavad, all those things before I even read Prabhupada's books. So before I got teaching Lord Chaitanya or Bhagavad Gita on me. Very interesting. Haribol.
Well, Prabhu, your nectar just now was even more tasty than those 10 laglus. So we're really happy. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that really struck me. You said earlier, actually, there was two parts. You said near the beginning and up in the middle that connected. You said about how the guru comes to you, everything's arranged. And you also said that you're not how Prabhupada smiled on you when he was teaching you the concept of you're not the doer. And really, this all comes down to mercy and the two fingers in the Mother Yashoda story with Krishna. And I mean, it's the essence of bhakti, and it's beautiful that you brought that up. And we often say we're not qualified, but I really feel that the mark of humility is not only to realize we're not qualified, but to also realize it doesn't matter that we're not qualified, because that's their mercy. Lord Nityananda is indiscriminate in the distribution of his mercy. So the first part of humility is to know I'm not qualified. And the second part of humility is to know it doesn't matter, I'm not qualified. And to just have the faith that mercy is there and open our hearts to that mercy. Because I think sometimes as devotees, we forget the second part and we focus on the first. And the second thing that really struck me, actually, I looked up the quote. You were talking about how Guru gives, all transmission is from heart to heart. And there's this beautiful quote. You mentioned saffron dust particles. It's one of my favorite things in all of Krishna consciousness, which I thought would nicely expound on what you said. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Text 25. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. Such a beautiful quote. And actually, I just realized it's one of the few times where it's quite clear that you have to have a living guru, because you can't hear from the mouth of a non-living guru. So actually, it's not so unambiguous in most statements. So it's quite a good way to use that to explain how you must have a living guru. So thank you so much, Prabhu. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Before we fly from West Virginia to Alachua for a final but not least, Pushpanjali, I just want to make a few announcements. We need a lot of Seva or Sevaks. Everything is about bhajan and putting our bhajan in Seva. We beg, if you are, or if you know anyone who's good at video editing, please help us. And let Yashodhari is going to put her number and my number in the chat now. Just contact one of us. That would be so helpful. because we're really slow and not very good at video editing. So it'll be really helpful. The second thing is if you're good at doing e-posters, that would also be wonderful. And the third thing, and this is huge begging, this is in really short supply, if you're good at digital marketing. For some of us, we don't really know what that means, but for those of you that who actually knows what that means, please, we need digital marketeers, people who know how to market and promote things on the internet for our preaching, because so much goes online, even now, more now with COVID, but even post-COVID, it's going to grow and grow. So if you're good at video editing, e-posters, digital marketing, please let Yeshadari and I know. Also to announce that Holistic Bhakti, we took a little break because of the 59-hour marathon, Zoomathon. It will be back on the 24th of February, which is every other Wednesday week. We just missed out one Wednesday. So welcome back to that. Maybe if Yeshadari could put in the WhatsApp link, if she has it. If not, I can put it in afterwards. And also on Monday and Thursday, we've got Mercy Leela, Mercy Grace Leela classes, which is all encouraging. And we're now starting to build real momentum for Kartik 2021, Gurudev's 100th appearance day, Kartik. That's going to be a huge moment. It's going to be as big as his appearance day because his parikrams are so important to him. And we may have the opportunity, I hope, to actually physically be there all together. So we are begging the acharyas for mercy by worshipping them once, whoever disappeared and appeared that week, once a week. And we're also absorbing ourselves in Navratri Leela and then Kartik Leela once a week. So this week we'll have class on Monday at 11:30 London time because it's Tridandi Maharaj from Navratri. So it's at the non-usual time to accommodate his time zone, and 5:30 on Thursday GMT. So our third speaker, he explained to me that originally, a bit like Jivadharma, Brajanath in the Jivadharma, he started out as a Swami in the impersonal path, and then he met Srila Prabhupada in 1977 and joined ISKCON the very following year. He lives in Alachua. He met Srila Gurudev in 2009 and really didn't hang about because he took Harinam and Diksha pretty much immediately after meeting Srila Gurudev. Maybe he should be called Brajanath rather than Narasingha, but I love the name Narasingha. Sriman Narasingha Das, I welcome you from Alachua. Very, very warm welcome. We look forward to hearing your beautiful Pushpanjali. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Well, first, of course, I would like to offer my obeisances, heartfelt obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who has lifted me up from the pit. And actually that's, my hog-like mentality wants to stay there. But the last few days that you have put on here have just been unbelievable. And just hearing just now from my old friend Mahabudhi Prabhu, I'm just stunned, so inspired. I've known him for years and I've never heard anything like what he was just sharing. He's just, he's just this treasure box, treasure trove. And I'm so grateful for these last few days. It's been an incredible festival, so inspiring, so much, the proper combination of Guru Tattva, of Tattva Vichar and Rasa Vichar, all these personal relationships. Both things have to be there together, just like Srila Prabhupada also told us, religion and philosophy, one without the other is incomplete. Religion without philosophy is just sentiment. Philosophy without religion, it's so dry. So these explanations of Guru Tattva inside of the experiences the devotees had, I could listen to this all day. I'm so grateful for what you've provided. So thank you for that. So, Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandaya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Sriman Bhaktivedanta Narayana Iti Namane. So I want to share a little of my coming to Srila Prabhupada because it's inseparable from my coming to Srila Gurudev and my experience with Srila Gurudev. And in a real sense, you know, when I really think about my life, most of it is just reels of illusion, just things happening, going places, doing things, all useless, all meaningless, all temporary, all not very deep, not very tasteful, but there are moments of reality, moments when we meet the Guru and we have exchange with the Guru, and those are real, and everything else is just noise. It's just noise in the way. So really, even though so many years went by between my meeting Srila Prabhupada and meeting Srila Gurudev, in the real sense, it's just one moment to the next. So Mahabudhi's Prabhu's point about how we do not go to the Guru comes to us. It is so, so profound. But of course, it seems to us like, well, we're the doers. We're doing it. Off to see the Guru. So I got completely frustrated with life, everything in England when I was a young teenager. And at 21, I gave up everything and I went to India to find my Guru, and that was it. As far as I was concerned, I was going to India and they'd never hear of me again over here. That's just fine by me in England. Didn't quite go like that, but I did indeed meet a Guru, mystic Guru, because just like Mahabudhi Prabhu said, you know, if you have desire to be cheated then, or to cheat, you'll be cheated. So Guru gives us so many experiences that we need to have to teach us, to purify us, to test us, all different reasons, but ultimately to bring us to him. So I was with one Guru in one ashram, yogic mystic ashram, for a couple of years. At a very young age, I was given a swamiship, as it were. You know, we followed very strict principles. And so many mystic experiences were there. But although I had that desire, I really had some desire to meet God, to find God, to know God. And anyway, at the Kumbh Mela in 1977, I was getting so much attention from my Guru and his Guru, who was, anyway, no need to mention that. And they had been preparing me to come to the West to be a teacher here on their behalf, to bring their movement to the West. At that time, I was the only Western student. And one morning, I had some extraordinary experiences there. And I bathed at Gangaji very, very early. If I remember rightly, it was Makar Sankranti. And Srila Prabhupada, I found out later, he'd also been there early that day in Gangaji, Jamunaji, Sangam, Saraswatiji. And in the morning, I suddenly had this profound urge. Today is the day I'm going to begin my mission. I'm going to bring this mission to the world, and I will begin by going to the camps of the different leading gurus and yogis and swamis who have already got so much reputation. I will challenge them. I will defeat them. Oh my goodness, it's so ludicrous, but I will defeat them and in this way begin my mission. And I will begin with this Swami Prabhupada because he's so big in the Western world. He has so many Western followers and they don't know the real India. This is my extraordinary arrogance and illusion. I discovered not that long after that actually the devotees, Prabhupada's devotees, Western devotees, they knew more about India, Indian culture than anybody. But, you know, I was just seeing so offensively and materially. Oh, they all look the same. They will get the haircut and the clothing, and they just, you know, they've given up their individuality. They're just buying into it wholesale. And so I thought, yes, what is he teaching? So I just filled my mind with classic impersonal foolishness. How can you imagine that God, unlimited, supreme, all-pervasive being, how can you contain him in some deity, some small object that has an inside and an outside? This is foolish. Obviously, the deity is just a symbol, just a focus point. And in the same way, the mantra, this mantra, Krishna, this name has a beginning, ka, and an end, a. It's just a little thing. So I was 21, 22, 23 years old. I've been practicing austerities for some time, receiving so much from my teachers, Shakti, so on and so forth. Very fired up and just filled with this mood that I was going to challenge this Swami teaching this symbolic kind of immature or very neophyte, whatever. You know, you can understand how gross my mentality was from speaking like this. So undeserving. So anyway, I went to see Srila Prabhupada. I came to the camp and I asked, where is your Swami? And they had a big pandal, and next to the pandal, a little tent. And in fact, I had to duck to enter the tent. And I ducked down, and just understand, I was very, very full of so much passion to challenge Prabhupada. My mind is full of all this argumentation, everything. I entered this world, and something happened. I didn't even realize what was happening. But I immediately sat down, and there were about 12 Indian people there coming to see Prabhupada. And I just quietly sat down. And one Indian gentleman said, Swamiji, what is meaning of Bhagavad Gita? And Prabhupada answered something along the lines of, so everybody wants to know who is God. How do I come to God? How do I find God? How do I know God? God himself is speaking. He is telling. And I thought, oh, very clear, very simple. I cannot argue with that. And that was actually the last conscious thought I had. And I just sat there. I was mesmerized by Prabhupada. He was sitting on this low Indian cot, charpai, very low, and he was very effulgent. He had this very effulgent light saffron dress. It was so effulgent because he was so effulgent, and I was mesmerized. I was just looking at him. And everybody else, one after another, they disappeared until it was just me and Prabhupada. Even his servant was not in the room. And I just looked up at Prabhupada. And he looked at me. And everybody knows Prabhupada had a gesture where his chin would go up and his eyebrows would go up, but his eyes would stay looking at you. And usually at the same time he would do this, he would go, or so, what have you got to say? With me, he didn't say anything. He didn't or so, he just went. And I'm looking at him. I had nothing to say, not a word. And I couldn't look at him very long because he was so high and I was so low, and I felt it. And I just looked down and I felt and I thought, if I could stay the rest of my life at these feet, I would be very, very satisfied, happy. I wouldn't want anything more. And Prabhupada let me stay like this for a few minutes in his presence. And then he turned to a disciple and said, oh, give him some prasad. And he dismissed me. So I did not understand exactly what he'd done. Over time, I realized he had defanged me without a word. He'd taken that impersonalism out of my heart, completely defeated me. I hadn't a word to say. Not only that, over the next year, I went through different experiences in which, even though I was receiving so much from my gurus, I realized I didn't want to stay there anymore. And I became filled with the urgency. I have to find God. I have to know who's God. I have to serve God. How can I serve God if I don't know who is God? And in this way, later on, I realized Prabhupada had given me the seed of bhakti, to look for bhakti. But I had made many offenses. I had many, many cheating desires. So many years had to go by. I joined ISKCON. I became a disciple of an unqualified person. I went through so many experiences. And after those, I just thought, Prabhupada is my guru. I want nothing to do with this institution. I have friends there. I'll go see them occasionally. I just want my private spiritual life and my relationship with Prabhupada. And so many years went by. And then I heard simultaneously from two very dear friends. One was local Guru Prabhu, an old Prabhupada disciple who I'd known for so many years, since as long as I'd known Mahabudhi, practically speaking. And from our days at New Vrindavan, Mahabudhi went there, I think, shortly after I did. I went there in 1980, I think, when I left Vrindavan. For a little while, he was there. And Jagadish Prabhu, who was very young when he came to New Vrindavan, and then after some time, he was very fortunate. He went to Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, and he became his Diksha disciple. And then later on, I discovered he had become very fond, very attached to Srila Gurudev. So both of them were calling me at the same time. Narasingha, Srila Narayan Maharaj has come. You should go to see him. He's very senior, beloved Vaishnav, and he's very old. And if you don't see him now, you might not get another chance. And I thought, why not? Why not? Maybe he can answer my question. And my question related to when I joined ISKCON in Vrindavan in 78, I had an incredible dream in which, this is not very significant here, but the end of the dream was, I was sitting in front of my guru, my eternal spiritual master. And I was weeping and weeping and weeping that I had been separated from him for so long. I'd forgotten him, and I was holding his feet, and I was begging him that he would never let me forget him again. He would never push me away. But he was so effulgent, I could only see his feet. Above his feet, everything was just brilliant golden color. I couldn't look. So I couldn't see his features, but it was my guru. And I was begging him in different ways. And he stopped me and he said, you are full of material desire and I accept you. And I assumed this was Prabhupada. And after going through the whole guru trip in ISKCON, again, I was thinking it's Prabhupada, but I didn't know because I hadn't seen him. And I thought I'll go and see Narayan Swami Maharaj because he is such a senior person, such an elevated soul. He would be able to tell me for sure if this was Prabhupada. So this was my thinking. And I came to Houston. And as soon as I entered, not even entered, the devotees were all at this wonderful compound. If I remember rightly, it was a Durga temple, the Hindu community, but they were very fond of Srila Gurudev, and they'd given their whole huge facility for this ceremony, this festival, in which the cornerstone laying of the new temple, Gurudev's new temple, was going to be performed. Anyway, as soon as I approached, just looking through the gates, it was incredible. I saw and felt loving relationships between devotees that I had not seen for decades. So when I first came to Prabhupada, and when I came to Vrindavan, he had only been gone a short while. The mood, there was so much there, was so clear. And I saw sannyasis laughing, patting the heads of children, and being close with Matajis in a very respectful but loving way. I saw all the devotees loving and laughing and enjoying each other regardless of ashram. And I thought, oh, this is special. If there is such fruit, then there must be some very special tree here. So I can see that Yashodanandana Prabhu is getting ready to move, so I will try to make this very quick, my meeting with Srila Gurudev. So
no, you're good, Prabhu. You're good. Don't rush. You're great.
All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. So I thought to myself, oh, there must be a very special tree here because there's some very sweet fruit. I could understand. And very shortly afterwards, somehow I made my way to the house where Gurudev was staying. Very beautiful house. One dear devotee of his, doctor, very successful, extraordinary place. And I went there, and the first person I met was Padmanabha Maharaj. And we must have some previous connection, not from this life, but instantly we had so much affection towards each other. And we were just speaking and speaking for ages. He said, I will get you a private darshan with Srila Gurudev. You should have this. So stay here and I will go and arrange. But it didn't happen. I'm there all day and just waiting to have this darshan with Gurudev. This is all I can think. I'm going to see him. It didn't happen. And I was there hours and hours. And Maharaj invited me to have lunch with the devotees and everything. And finally, Gurudev came down the stairs. And by this time, there's a lot of devotees. Must have been 100, maybe 200, so many devotees fitting in this room, this big, big room. And I went in and somehow or other, I'm sitting in front of Gurudev's chair, like directly in front, only a few rows back. And I'm sitting there and it's packed and devotees at the side. And Gurudev's asking for question. And it looks like he's looking at me. And so, everybody's sitting down. And so I stand up. It just feels like an appropriate act of respect. If everybody's sitting, then I should stand like that. I don't want to be on the same level. I don't mean higher than. I just mean if he's sitting, I should not sit. I should not have that. So I stood up and everybody's sitting. And Gurudev looks a little puzzled and Brajana, no, not you, not you. And so I'm feeling now wonderfully, completely embarrassed because I've stood up and it's nothing to do with me, right? So what am I, the whole room full of devotees and everybody's seated and looking, and who is this big, elephant standing up? So I sat down feeling like a complete idiot, which of course is the most wonderful prepping to meet the Guru. And this Indian gentleman asked a question in Hindi, and Gurudev is speaking, I presume Hindi, back and forth, and then they finished. And then Gurudev, and then Brajanath looks at me, now you. So again, I get up and I say, Swamiji, I'm feeling, I don't know what to call him. That's just the proper respect for, my background. So Swamiji, I came to Srila Prabhupada so many years ago and I had a dream. And then Brajanath starts to translate. I did not know that Gurudev could only understand English once it's been mutilated by a Dutch accent. So I'm, it was a very interesting experience. Gurudev looking at me puzzled, like not understanding a word, and looking at Brajanath to explain what I'm saying. And back then my English accent was not damaged by many years living in America. Well, actually it was quite damaged, but I put it on again that day to speak proper English. And so I said, so when I came, I had a dream, and Brajnath explained, and then I began to explain the dream. And Brajnath is repeating everything I'm saying, so I can hear what I'm saying to Gurudev. And so I thought I'd gone there with this question about a dream. And after only a moment, Brajnath was saying, beginning the dream. And I looked at Gurudev and I looked at Brajnath. I went, no, no, no. And at that moment, Gurudev is letting me know why I've come here, to be with him that day. I'm just looking at him and I don't know what happened. And of course, everybody who's been with Gurudev has heard and seen these stories countless times when he just opens the heart, just opens the heart. And I look at him and now he's just looking at me. And believe it or not, I perhaps I wasn't close enough. I didn't see that his eyes were blue or any color. All I knew was this gaze. It was like being with Prabhupada again. It was just the same. And everything, everyone disappeared. It's just me and this saint, excuse me. And I'm looking at him, and I'm starting to weep uncontrollably. And I said, I have been trying to be a devotee for almost 35 years now. And I still don't know who I am, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just crying. And he's looking at me and he said, I will help you. I will give you shiksha, and tomorrow I will give you mantras. And I'm just like shocked and home again, just home. And a little later, I was with Sajjan Swami, and I said, I don't know what happened. I didn't come here looking for a guru. I have no idea what happened. And the next day I went and I received my mantras from Gurudev, Harinam mantras. And then the next morning I went on a morning walk with him. And I'm way at the back, very happy to be there. I didn't feel I had any right to be any closer, but I had to ask a question. So I came to him and I said, Chakutani Liluye, Janme, Prabhu say. So are you my eternal spiritual master? Is the spiritual master the same person? Because I so desperately wanted this personal relationship. And he called Padmanabha Maharaj over and he said, tell him. Because obviously Gurudev's been asked this question so many times. So Padmanabha Maharaj explained that Guru is one, that whole, and the same Guru, he's just like Prabhupada said in his Vyasa Puja offering to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in 1936. He said, Guru is one. He appears in unlimited forms in order to give each person in every time and every place. So, okay, I'm thinking like that. But I'd already said to Gurudev, I have a problem because for so many years, I've been worshiping Prabhupada. I've been meditating on Prabhupada. I've been thinking of Prabhupada as my guru, and I've been giving what love I have to Prabhupada. And now you've given me mantras, you're my guru, but I don't know how I can transfer my heart to you. I just don't know how to do this. So Gurudev, all right, like that. And so Padmanabha spoke, and then I went back again. And we're walking. And then after 2 minutes, Gurudev stopped. And he said, he looked around, where is that boy? I always have to laugh. Prabhupada and Gurudev, they always refer, doesn't matter how old we are, we're always boys. Where is that boy? Where's that little child? Where is that boy? Oh, come on, come on. And he looked at me. And he said, that's all right. You can do like that, no problem. And I knew what he was saying. You can continue to worship Prabhupada. You can see him as your guru, no problem. And I thanked him and I went back. And I realized that what happened was because he had absolutely nothing except desire to help me. No care, oh, you worship me, you think I'm your guru. He's already accepted me as disciple. He's actually my guru now. He's not attached to even I think of him as my guru. I worship him as my guru. No attachment at all. No need to have disciples, to be nothing. No obstacle. And in that, literally overnight, because of how he was, just automatically, naturally, the next day I discovered my heart had gone to him, that he was my Prabhupada. And I could say many other things, but one little thing, one memory. When I saw him in Bhaja, the next Bhaja Fest, I didn't touch his feet. He was walking by and I felt, I can't. I'm not qualified. I'm too low. I'm too dirty. I don't know him. I have to serve him. And I didn't touch his feet. Everybody's touching his feet. And later I'm thinking, what kind of fool am I? So then the next year I'm at Govardhan. This is where I met you, actually, at Mayapur also. And one day there, I'm with Padmanabha Maharaj, and he said, let's go and see Gurudev. And he's in that bed, you know, because we're thinking these are his departure pastimes. Padmanabha Maharaj just takes me with him. And we go back there, and Brajanath Prabhu is there, and Madhava Maharaj is Prabhu, and is there, and I think a doctor, and they all start talking together, and Gurudev's just lying there, and I'm there, and his feet are there. And I go, this is my chance. And I just placed my head, his feet on my head, and I held his feet, and I thanked him. And of course, that was his grace to me. He was giving me that opportunity. And then, you know, of course, the day when we're all terrified that he's going to leave, the day of Srila Bhamana Maharaj's disappearance, I think it was disappearance, came, and he didn't leave. And we're all thinking, he's staying. Because it was very clear, he's going to, if he's going to leave, he's going to leave then, because he's so linked to his godbrothers, Srila Vaman Maharaj, Srila Trivikram Maharaj. They all do everything together. They come and go together. He didn't leave. Everybody's so happy, so relieved. And the next day, Gurudev comes out in the wheelchair. He's wheeled out in front of his room on that little porch, and we're all sitting there, and there's kirtans, and it's just incredible environment, because only days before, I mean, I remember when I came to Govardhan, to the mutt then, and just coming up the stairs, you could feel the ocean, the waves of the ocean of intense sadness and separation and longing and love for Gurudev. And walking into the temple room that's filled with devotees. And as soon as I walked in, I fell to my knees, crying. All the devotees crying. And there's a video screen in Gurudev's. He's just laying there, and every now and again he's coming back to external consciousness, and hand is coming up. He's blessing us, and he's looking at us, and then. So there's been such an intense mood, and now he's not left. He's going to stay with us. He's going to be with us. And he said, so I want you all to come to Mayapur, and I will see you there. Jai Gurudev! We're all blissed out. And then sometime later, I was in Udupi doing some panchakarma. I had my wife at that time and daughter there. Oh, one thing I have to say in that regard. They'd come to India with me. It was in fact my then wife's, ex-wife's idea. We go to India. We, you know, all kinds of terrible things that happened. I lost my work, no money, everything, sell the house, use whatever money to go to India. And I was astonished. This wasn't our idea. She wasn't a devotee, nothing. And she had no desire to be a devotee. But when we came to Govardhan and we went up the stairs to the temple room that first time, she was ahead of me, and I saw her fall to her knees ahead of me and start crying with what was the mood there. And she just found herself, Padmanabha Maharaj said, would you like to take initiation? It blew my mind. Yes, she wanted. So she and my daughter then said, I want. And they both received Harinam, which is very, very wonderful for them, of course. So we're all in Udupi together, and suddenly I hear Gurudev has left, and I cannot believe it. And I called Padmanabha Maharaj, and I was angry. I said, he promised that he would see us in Mayapur. And my last thing to say, Padmanabha Maharaj laughed ruefully. He said, Narasingha. He said, come to Mayapur. He will see you in Mayapur. He never said you will see him. And I understood something that now we hear. Gurudev has said, I'm closer to you than the air you breathe. He is always, every moment with us. I'm just a fool because I'm almost never with him. But he's always with us. He's never left us. Never, before we even heard of him, he's never left us. This is an eternal, transcendental relationship, has nothing to do with material time, past, future, never present. He's always here, and I'm so grateful to you, Yashodhana Prabhu, for these days of reminding by hearing all the devotees like Mahabudhi Prabhu, hearing Kishori and Sudevi most mornings now, this constant dip in the nectarian ocean of the pastimes and the instructions of our eternal Gurudev. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Vanchakalpa Turubhyas cha, Kripasindhubhyeva cha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Gurudev, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, you've literally put me on top of a volcano just before it erupts, and the volcano erupted, and I'm in like the outer space of total bliss and pain at the same time. You should really have a health warning on your guitar. It's not good for the blood pressure.
I'm a complete fool. I simply was listening to devotees like Mahabudhi. I'm just sharing something that they're giving me. That's all.
It's so beautiful. I just want to check with you about the Brajanath story. Did he mutilate your English or mutate it, or both?
No, I said mutilate.
But probably mutate it too, right?
Mutilated with a Dutch accent. Mutated too. Love Brajanath.
I love it. I love it.
Oh my God, what a sweetheart.
I mean, one thing that comes to my mind immediately is just how privileged we are every week to be listening to these Pushpanjalis. I mean, I feel like I've always felt like the Forrest Gump of the spiritual life, you know, and this just confirms that, you know. I think 90% of life is turning up. If you don't know anything, you just turn up. Eventually, you're going to get it. I feel incredibly privileged to be listening to devotees like Anandini and Mahabudhi and yourself today. And I know Yashodhari feel. I know I'm speaking. She's nodding. Yeah, she doesn't always nod at what I say, but she's definitely nodding now. She's nodding. Yes, totally. We feel really privileged. And every week we say similar, this next sentence, which is, every week we think it can't get any better, it gets better, and yet if I compare any week to any other week, you can't say which is better. So it doesn't make any logical sense, but it's just extraordinary. And I'm so happy we're doing another, if my maths is right, another 44 of these. It's incredible. Yes. And when you started out with your story about how Prabhupada defeated you without even saying a word, it reminded me of a Chaitanya Charitamrita story, you know, like where Lord Chaitanya just completely defeats everybody in every single pastime of debate. But in this case, Prabhupada didn't even have to say a word. That was beautiful. And you also mentioned about the loving relationships. And I think this is where the real Vaishnava work needs to take place over the next 10 years, is on really understanding how do we put our Sarup Siddha Bhakti into our Jiva to Jiva relationships, and then how do we use our Jiva to Jiva relationships to support the Sarup Siddha Bhakti? Because seriously, the theater of the human to human, well, it's actually not just human to human, it's also human to animal. The living entity relationship is a testament, is a marker of where we are with Krishna. If we're not getting on with our fellow men and women, how can we say that we're serving God? It doesn't make any sense. But it's beautiful what you shared with us. And I loved it when you said something about you, when you're on that stage, you know, you realize you knew nothing. And it's beautiful to be in that place. Someone else mentioned about don't be hopeless, but it's be helpless, but don't be hopeless. Be helpless, but don't be hopeless. Because when we're helpless, we know how to beg. And when we beg, we know how to be humble. When we know how to be humble, we're surrendering to Guru, who can then inject that arrow-tipped Hladini Shakti into our heart. So we can be helpless, but never, never hopeless. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing your beautiful, beautiful Pushpanjali. I really, has been a stunning day. All three speakers have been totally stunning. Thank you. I just want to re-announce what I announced earlier, because I know sometimes there's a lot to digest. So repetition is sometimes a good idea. We really are, the Seva is growing. We really want to share the Seva around. The Seva is joyful. And so anyone who is experienced in or knows someone who's experienced in video editing, please contact Yeshadari or me. Yeshadari will post our numbers again because the chat gets lost because there's so much chat. If you can do e-posters, we seriously need you. And if you know how to do, if you know what is digital marketing and you know how to do it, please also contact us. And think about who you know, because it might not be you, but you might know someone who really needs to be engaged in Seva, and you could be really helping their spiritual life by getting them engaged with what we're doing here. So before we close out, we're going to have Kirtan in a minute, but Yeshadari, would you like to add anything?
No, nothing. I just want to say just really grateful that everyone's keeping us in Seva and engaged in Seva. I don't know what good I've did in my past life to have such a opportunity to serve so many Vaishnavas. So just want to thank everybody and our good family that you just keep me close to you guys, and then I will grow in. And when I grow in bhakti, that means that I'm serving Srila Gurudev. So thank you so much. And I'm going to now swap seats because Radha, my sister, is now going to give them. So I'm going to give her the spotlight and just move to the back slowly because obviously I can't sing. So Radha. Krishna. I don't really like the spotlight either, so it's gonna. Are you ready? So we're just gonna sing the Maha Mantra to close the session this week. So Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari 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 Bol. Hari Bol. Oh.